Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Pokes on Relationships. And today we are speaking retirement and its relationship with your role as a provider in the family. I came across this very interesting video of retirement potentially being irrelevant in the future, and it got me asking this very vital question. With work being an option in the future, what actually happens to the male role within a family structure where provision and being able to work has been so inherently and closely tied to what it means to be provider? Have a listen to this video, and I'd love us to have a conversation about this, and let me know what you think.
Away for retirement in like 10 or 20 years. It won't matter.
Either we're not going to be here or
You won't need to save for retirement. If any of the things that we've said are true, saving for retirement will be irrelevant.
services will be there to support you. You'll have the home, you'll have the healthcare, you'll have the entertainment.
The way this unfolds is fundamentally impossible to predict because of self-improvement of the AI and the accelerating timeline.
Yeah, it's called
Any
singularity for a
solution-
reason. What happens after the event horizon?
Exactly. You can never see past the black hole or the event horizon, the
Yeah.
light cone.
Bray has the singularity out way too far. I mean, this is like the next, what's your timeline for this?
We're in the singularity.
Well, we are in the singularity for sure.
Yeah.
We're in the
Yeah.
midst of it right now for sure.
Yeah.
So there you have it. There'll be no need for retirement, or that it will be irrelevant. And as you heard the conversation continuing, was that we'll have the home, we'll have the entertainment. And I was just wondering, just a couple of questions that pop in my head. Now, I'd like to caveat this by saying that I'm not anti-technology, neither am I anti-AI, but I do have questions of what such technology and optimism practically looks like for humanity, and more specifically right now for the male and provider role within a family. Or perhaps you're not a male and you are the provider in your family, and you have a very real question of, well, how are you going to pay for things if you don't work? One may argue, and I guess which is really where the optimism and the proponents of the creators of this technology are arguing, to say, well, we're going to have more time. We're going to have more time to do creative things. We're going to have more time to be with our families. But we also know that there's no such thing as a free lunch. So what does that actually mean for families? Now, when I started thinking about this, we know that in time immemorial, that provision and being able to work with your hands has been very much tied to just being able to protect and being role of provider within a family. It adds meaning. It's not the only role that males generally play within a family setting, but it is one of the major roles. And I just had to ask this question. Well, what does that mean? What kind of shifts are happening psychologically if men are not able to work and provide for their families? Does that mean that they're not even going to want to have a family? What happens to meaning and purpose of life? I think because as human beings, inherently, we have a desire to create, to work with our hands, to produce something, to have the sweat of our brow. Obviously not to such an extent that it hurts us and it hurts our ability to connect with family and to connect with children. But inherently, since the creation of man, men have always worked. Now, yes, over time, we have had tools and technologies that have come to make the work that men, and even nowadays, a lot nowadays, the work that men and women do have become definitely a lot easier with the introduction of some certain technologies. If you take farming, for instance, yes, there has been technology and tractors and all those things that have been designed to make work better, but it did not completely remove work from society. Now, it looks like with this push and this optimism, there is definitely a push for removing work completely. What does that mean for male psychology? What does that mean for meaning of what a provider will do in a family context? Now, on paper, it seems pretty brilliant. It seems pretty phenomenal when I think of what AI can relieve humans of. I must say so myself that in some instances, I'm pretty impressed. I must say that perhaps a lot of people hated, those very laborious, hard factory jobs or those construction type of work that would, almost risk your life. But at the same time, some were happy that they were able to go out and do something with their hands. So I really wonder, like, what is this literally going to do to the dynamic of family, and more so the psychology of men? What does this mean? And I think for me, I have this question of, okay, but don't save for retirement. Why wouldn't you want to save for retirement? And if you're a father right now and you're practically thinking, what does that statement mean? I have the same question for you too. What does that actually mean? Why would it be irrelevant for you to save for retirement? And what would that mean for you in terms of just food? How are you going to provide for your family? Does that mean that we're moving and pushing more towards UBI? Is that something that we actually want? I thought we lived in a capitalist society. And so even though that it might seem very euphoric and wonderful to have a society where there is no poverty, there's no sickness, there's no scarcity, it does sound exactly that, like utopia, not reality. And I don't know. I just have really just this question of what would that look like? 80% of the jobs gone. Now, while I am having this conversation, I'm also, to be honest, I think my optimism has a different lens in that I do believe that AI technology can pose real opportunities for even some men in societies who are perhaps physically not able to do some of the hard labor tasks, or who have been wanting to venture into industries where you'd have needed a lot of money, perhaps for coaching. And now you can actually do that with AI. On that front, I'm pretty optimistic. I am very excited that finally that we wouldn't have to pay tons and tons of money for college degrees, or you wouldn't have to pay tons and tons of money in able to get a particular skill, because there's AI that is advancing and moving so very quickly. But as I say, I always like to ask questions and also err on the side of caution when it comes to some of these things, particularly because recently a lot of the creators of the tech and even Elon Musk himself have had very hard questions posed to them, and they're very real. An honest answer is we don't know. We don't know what this could actually mean for society. And because we don't know, I always like to just be more careful. But I would love to hear from you. What is the thought of not being able to provide for your family due to being displaced by AI doing to your thought pattern? Do you think it's a good thing? Would you be very happy to not have to work and to be able to just spend more time with your family? I know that for me, just not being able to create and to be productive and just sit idle is something that would definitely, I think, would be frustrating. But some people are probably very much looking forward to that. And I'd like to hear your take on what you think about all of this. Because I think about it as the provider paradox. Like, what is this actually going to do? Not just in terms of economically never being needed, but just the psychology of the provider. What is this going to do? I have lots of questions. As always, I say I don't have all the answers, but I'd be very interested to hear from you, because I know that even statistically, when providers or when men are not able to provide and are in the state of unemployment, a lot of stress comes upon them. And now I just wonder if you're just going to be, and even in a situation like that, it seems temporary. But now if it's a permanent fixture, if it's a permanent state of society, that I don't have the answer to. And I don't know if I like the answer. If we just follow the conversation and follow the money and follow it all the way down to what very realistically that could look like for society. Just having tons and tons of people feeling useless just because robots are doing all the work for them. Or perhaps maybe it could be a good thing. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. And I think this discussion is a very, very interesting discussion. And I'd love to hear your take on not saving for retirement, but more so, what would it be like for you if you, as a provider, were not able to work with your hands? and had everything handed over to you, because essentially that's what the promise is, right? It's not that we're just going to take your jobs away, but it's that there's going to be an alternative. At least that's what I'm pulling from this, or am I imagining stuff? That there's going to be an alternative, or that AI is going to pose a very healthy alternative. Anyway, let me know what you think. Once again, thank you for coming to Pokes on Relationships. And here today we spoke about the relationship between a potential irrelevant retirement planning and your role and its relationship to you as a provider and its relationship with the rest of your family. As always, let me know what you think. Pop your comments below. Subscribe if you want to hear more of these discussions and conversations are just about technology, finances, and how it's just affecting the family dynamic. But until